Okay.
Now we're ready.
Okay, now we're ready. Okay, I'll call me daughter at 4:04. We'll clock this move. And it's good to see you all. I'm sorry that we're not in person, but it seemed like a prudent thing to do to go back to Zoom, hopefully just maybe for a month or so, with fingers crossed, but we'll just monitor that as need be. So hopefully everyone's doing well, and so are your families. So not seeing public, we'll move on to communications. Does anyone have communications to share from since we saw each other last? Community? No, nor do I. Okay. So may I have a motion to approve the minutes that were done so well of the December 15th meeting by Barbara?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Holly. A second? Oh,
A second.
Catherine will second. Okay, thank you, Catherine. Any additions, corrections, comments about the minutes?
I had a few corrections. I'm sorry, I can't look at anything without them just coming to me. So I apologize.
Well, it's your normal job, isn't it?
I
It's a
know,
gift.
I know.
It's a
I
gift,
cannot
yeah.
turn it off. It's kind of sad. Under review of statistics, I think in the first line, they are slowly rising or they are slowing. I couldn't quite decide because I couldn't remember.
Oh.
Yeah, that makes sense. Slowly.
I'd go for slowly rising, but as I said, I'm not quite sure.
Anything else? Or you said you had a couple of things, Catherine?
Yeah, on the second page, on the second line, I think it's one card, one community. So there's an extra card in there.
Yeah, I think that was actually my mistake initially. So that's not a Barbara, that's a me.
And on the third page, the first line, there's an RE missing from the word references.
Good. Yep.
And then on the last bullet there, the word was should come out of the first line about presenting Ms. Duval Arnoul with flowers.
Where is the references, Catherine?
It's the first line on page 3, clarifying language about references.
Okay. And then what's the last one?
On the bullet on that page where it says Ms. Shaw presented Ms. Duval Arnoul, right after that, the word was should probably come out.
Okay.
Any other comments on the minutes or suggestions, changes? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes with those changes, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Abstaining? Okay,
That
motion
stuff, of
carried.
course, that stuff is incredibly minor. These minutes are just a work of art, always.
No, thank you so much,
Thank-
Barbara, for your excellent minutes, and
Yes.
Catherine for your sharp eye. A good combination, absolutely. Okay, that moves us into statistics and then the director's report. So, Jennifer, you'd like to?
Okay, so there is something in the minutes where the old minutes that we had, it referenced how I spoke about how the audiobooks, basically we talked last time about how audio is, I don't want to say plummeting, but it's definitely not an item that is being checked out as it used to because of the format, as I discussed last time. And if you look at our circulation statistics, a good chunk of the downward trend is definitely reflected, as you can see. And I'm not talking about December. If you look at the statistics, if you look back to December 20th, it's not really as accurate. If you look back to December 19, because that was before closures and whatnot. And if you look at how many
Jennifer, can you
items,
just point out where
Yes.
you're looking on the page? just
Sure,
to
sure.
reference us? Thank you.
under circulation statistics, under adult non-print,
Mhm. Okay, that's audio.
correct. Non-print would encompass all of our CD audiobooks as well as our DVDs.
Oh.
So if you look to, if you semi-exempt December of 2020, because, you know, we were closed, I don't think that's very accurate, but if you look December 2019,
Oh,
how
yeah.
much was being checked out as comparatively to now, you know, last month when we were open, you can see the steady decline. However, you can also note that the increases in the ebook, audio section are still rising. So that's what I was talking about last time about the balance of formats. You know, one may be declining, but the other one is, you know, rising. So that's what I was talking about last.
That's in
Yeah.
the same block of circulation, right?
If you look down to where it says ebooks and magazines and,
Right,
well, more importantly, downloadable audio,
Yeah.
you see
I
from
see.
December 19 to, you know, 2021, you know, we are increasing, and you'll continue seeing the increase in the e-audio, downloadable e-audio, because we are purchasing more items. So you'll see more circulation as time wears on.
Okay.
But I just wanted to know, because I mentioned it last time, and you can definitely see quite a difference with the formats of CDs and DVDs declining. I mean, that's just because people don't have those machines, and that's where we're at. The other thing I wanted to know is the Google My Business section. I have not received that report yet from Google My Business. Sometimes there's a lag. And when I have those numbers, I will input them and I can send them off to you all. So that's why it's blank right now. I don't know if anybody had any questions.
I do have something, but if anyone else has questions, let's hear those first.
I looked at the meeting room nonprofits, and it like tripled from November, which I thought was pretty amazing since December had the holidays in it. Was there a reason for that?
Well, it's interesting because we are seeing more people utilizing those rooms. We've actually adopted a couple more organizations, one being the Veterans Coffee House Group, which has at least anywhere between 13 to 20 members. And of course, anybody else can be added if they, you know about it and want to come and work with these people. So they're coming 2 times a month. And so we're seeing increases from new organizations and, you know, some people that are keying in that we're open again and booking our reservation room, booking our meeting rooms by reservation. So that is where the increase. However, I'm going to tell you, we had to, due to the town manager, he had suggested that we close our meeting rooms. That's why we're on virtual right now. So you may see the decline again next month, just because we're in this weird time. But meeting rooms are definitely still a draw. So we will definitely broadcast that as soon as we can get be allowed to have that again. Yeah.
Matthew?
Jen, I know one of the people who helps facilitate those meetings of veterans. And there are, I know this is being broadcast, so I want to choose my words carefully. There are amongst the veterans who attend those who are very isolated and at very, very high risk, where these meetings are essential to maintaining mental health and survival. And I would be grateful if the board concurs that Jen communicate this to the town manager, because we reduce one risk and we increase another risk. There's no good solution. It's like sitting, it doesn't matter which horn of the bull you sit on, whichever one, there's no good solution. But please share that with him. We need to be flexible. Thank you.
Any other comments
I'm right
about
here.
statistics? Okay, I do have a question. I'll jump in then. And it's about our interlibrary loan statistics.
Right to mine.
Mhm.
So the state report was released since our last meeting, the profiles.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what I saw in comparing each town's activity in that was that Groton, just Groton. And my questions, Jennifer, I'm trying to understand what the story tells of statistics. So no.
Okay.
But for the period of July 2020 through June 2021, Groton, it just said Groton, loaned 13,186 items inside Connecticut, and borrowed a little bit more than that. So my question, that doesn't quite jive. I looked back at some of your monthly statistic reports, and I couldn't reconcile that number. So a couple questions I have. Does that report, when it says Groton, is it a accumulation of the 3 Groton libraries with their interlibrary loan? That's one question, trying to understand why the number is so large in that report. And then secondly, which I do have a concern, and if I'm correct, please tell me if I'm wrong, that's the number that the reimbursement for Borrow It comes from.
Correct. That I can tell you definitively, yes.
And that's what I believe too.
Mhm. Yes.
And so my questions around why is there such a discrepancy? And we look at our statistics this month for ILL, you can't come up with 13,000 and more items in a year if you use that number as a baseline.
Sure.
And I did go back about 5 or 6 months looking at the reports, and unless there was some unusually large month with thousands of items, it just doesn't quite jive for me unless I'm missing something.
I believe, and what I'd have to tell you, I would like to
So if
double
I could just
check.
ask one more question.
Of course.
Is it the circulation system of with Mystic Noank and Bill Memorial that is that influencing that number?
Mhm. It is.
And if so, how do you extract out the Groton Public Library when it comes to the Borrow It report? So that's like my concern, because the number just stood out. So because we are like 15th in the state in
Sure.
terms of high lending.
I'd have to
notes
just
in the report.
verify, but I'm pretty sure that what you're seeing right here about interlibrary loans means a true interlibrary loan out of our consortia, meaning beyond our consortia group. But an interlibrary loan actually is inclusive. It's all non-resident transactions.
So it's
if
not a
water-
loan to Mystic Noank out of Groton Public.
Correct. So those people who do not reside in the zip codes that we have in town of Groton, those are considered non-resident.
Okay.
At least that's what I believe, but I'd have to verify that.
I think so too. I think so too, going back over the years. So my question is, did you see that kind of large activity from other towns that came for pickup during that interval of during that year?
I'd have to,
Because
obviously run a report to get you a number or have Judy enlighten me, but I can tell you, we have quite a number of people. Stonington and Waterford are our 2 biggest that we lend to. So
Right, but those patrons could not have put holds on the books to then pick them up in the vestibule.
they could have. Yes, they could.
With their Stonington cards? They could have put a
Yes.
hold
Mhm.
in our
Anybody
system?
could have,
Right.
anybody could have checked out or had us hold a book, as long as they were registered in our system already. And if they weren't, they had to go to their library to obviously get their home card. But yes, they could have come to the vestibule. We didn't limit it to just Groton people for pickup.
Well, if you could just report next month, a little bit more detail on that, would appreciate it.
So basically what you would like to know is from what we have on our monthly statistics, that ILL, as I said, I believe is reflective of outside of our consortia. So I will verify that.
Right.
And then the state report, I believe, is any non-resident transaction. That's our Borrow It money. So I will check to
If you would just check that, just to
verify
make sure that we're
Mhm.
aligning
Of
properly.
course,
Okay,
I would
thank
be
you.
happy to do that.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else for statistics? Okay, Jennifer, you want to move into your report then?
Or, it's interesting. December is always the month, even prior to pre-COVID days, that we come into a little bit of a lull because it's just that time of year. People are busy and holiday and doing whatever with family. And so we always see a bit of a decline, but we've taken the opportunity. There's a lot of things that we've been looking at that needed some attention in the back of the library. That being like our security cameras needed a new server because it wasn't operating properly. Our copier is up on its lease, so we had to do some reviewing of different copiers, availability and costs to get the best price and the best equipment. So we did that. We've had the opportunity to post some new signage in the library for basically wayfaring signs for people to find things. And of course, we got a new phone system that unfortunately, I hope you didn't have too many problems with, but was installed in the last couple weeks. And we're just now going through some training to help us with support because while we have the same company, we're still learning some new options with the phones. So hopefully we haven't had too many drop calls and people hopefully we're a little patient with our changeover. So, and of course, I told you we were going through at the last meeting, we were going through some positions that we were looking for candidates. And as of today, we offered for the 2 library aide positions. We had a very good pool this time around. We're very excited to offer to these great candidates. And tomorrow we will be doing second interviews for our municipal video tech position, part-time position. So we're looking forward to hiring, getting some new people in the building. Good news, our book bike from the Circle of Friends has finally arrived after 2 years of waiting. And funny enough, it came in, the boxes came in, we opened them up, they looked amazing. And we realized, well, we got to get this put together. So we called Public Works. Long story short, they brought it to Mystic Cycle Shop because there's a couple things they want to ensure the safety when somebody's riding this bike, that there's no issues whatsoever regarding safety. So they're taking a look at it, and but it's in our, we have it in town. So we're excited to finally be able to put it together and, get it out so people can see it. We'll be doing a lot of marketing blitz on the bike itself, and AARP, who was generous in granting us this opportunity, and then of course with the Circle of Friends. You'll be seeing that coming up in a lot of our marketing materials.
How do you first envision it being used, actually?
It's
how's
funny.
it
I
roll
love
out,
to say
basically?
that, I'll get out there and ride that bike, but I have a feeling Kim, she wanted it, so let's get her out on that bike first. But we're hoping it'll be a good avenue we do a lot of outreach, and we feel that this will be a good opportunity to bring to some of our senior facilities in town, as well as some of the parks that we have. And the great thing about this bike is Kim had a personal friend of hers who is a graphic designer, and it is eye-catching and really beautiful. It's not, you're going to be able to notice this as this comes down the street. So we're hoping a lot of people in the community will, start to know what it is and be drawn to it once we get to these locations. And, we're using it as a tool to broadcast not only literature, but it's going to have a Wi-Fi hotspot. So if they're, say, in the park, people will be able to, get online, or at least be able to, if a librarian needs to look up a book or something for these people, if we don't have it with us that we, bring it out, we can put things on hold. So there's definitely some options, for community outreach.
Hallie?
Jen, Is this an electric assist bike or old fashioned pedal?
Old fashioned pedal.
Really? Okay,
Ooh, brutal.
That's why we took it to
Wow.
the cycle shop, because we want to make
Okay.
sure it's in
Wow.
tip top shape.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it has to be all done downhill.
Yeah,
does it-
right. Or not at all. No downhill.
Yeah. Does it collapse? Let's say Kim wants to bring it to 3 miles away. How does she get it from the library to the destination? So you can ride in the
So,
neighborhood.
it was told to us by the person who built the bike that, it was able to come apart. So let's say we wanted to take it to a far away venue that, we couldn't very well ride it all the way there, but we wanted to utilize there's a big box on the front and it opens up like almost like a display case. And we were like, okay, well, what if we need to go far distances? And he told us that there would be an option to be able to take that part off if we wanted to get it into a car and be able to take it somewhere. That is yet to be seen because we just got it the other day and we're just putting it together. So we'll have to see how that actually is gonna work.
Mhm.
But, at the very least for, Kim has been on this case for quite some time to get it in our doors. So we're very excited to explore a new option.
Sure.
I also I wanted to remark two particular things. GMTV was tasked with putting together a police recruitment video. And the reason I bring this up is because it's been for the last couple of years now, all across the country, the police, recruiting has been quite difficult to get new candidates for their police force. And so, the chief had thought about it and, contacted GMTV to see, could we put something together to broadcast our need and do it in an interesting way? Well, they really did an amazing job. And I want to share it with as many people as I can, because they took a lot of time, effort. They took some amazing shots. It's just professionally well done. And you can find it on our GMTV YouTube site, and I can also send you the link. Yeah, it's just well done, and I would love for you to take a look at it. So that took up a nice chunk of time, and yeah, I just very proud of what they've done.
Any feedback on results?
They just put it out last week, I believe. So I think a little too early to tell. And I don't think it's reflective of the video, but they did just hire 2 new cadets. So I'm very excited that they're starting, and hopefully that's an upward trend. That's what we're hoping. So, but yeah, too soon to tell, I think. But I think the views and seeing what kind of applications get put in will really be telling. And there was another thing I wanted to remark on the Native American sculpture revisited. So I received a phone call about 3 to 4 weeks ago from a gentleman out of Stamford, Connecticut. I believe that's where he's located. And he was inquiring, he does a podcast, and it's called Amazing Tales from Off and On Connecticut's Beaten Path. And he was very interested in the sculpture that we had on library grounds. It was a Native American sculpture, if you remember, some of you may remember. Well, rumor had it when I came on board that it had been removed because of termite damage, and it had been removed supposedly to Mystic Village. And the story goes, the sculptor himself had made these sculptures for each state in the country, and ours was chosen to come here. And so when it was removed, it kind of disappeared and no one knew where it was. And every year we get about 2 to 3 people who say, hey, what happened to that sculpture? It's, one of those questions we get, and we have I obviously misinformed people that it termite damage and it was destroyed and it's gone. Well, apparently not so. It is supposedly still at the Mystic, not Mystic Village, I'm sorry, the shops at Mystic. And so he had, Mike Allen, who is the podcast person, had contacted me because he wanted to do basically a little history on it. And he had contacted the sculptor who is still alive and living in Washington State. And he's trying to connect all the dots, the sculptor, finding where it is, and, basically telling a history of the statue and the sculptures. And the podcast is live now, and I have a link for it if you're interested in, listening to it. And we have asked him if he'd be willing, since he asked us for research on this, and we provided him the research, to do a possible Zoom presentation in the very near future on both the podcast as well as possibly having the sculptor on a presentation. History definitely sells around here. People love local lore, and I think it would be a great program and something to highlight for, like I said, a future program. So I just wanted to tell you about it. And if you haven't heard the podcast, I will send the link if you're interested to listen to it. So very interesting. It got a lot of, somebody had posted it on the Groton Community Forum page on Facebook, and there were so many comments and lots of interest about it, and a lot of people listening to the podcast. So I think it's a no-brainer to do something with that. Yes, Helen.
And are there any plans to restore it?
Well, that is the $1 million question, because so when the owner was contacted at Mystic Village, right? Mystic Village. Yeah, Mystic Village. The owner said that she was not aware that it was still on site, and her son apparently said that it is on site. So what really has to happen is the sculptor said he could make some recommendations on how to restore it, but he'd have to know, what state it's in. And we have to make sure it's available to, to take a look at and see what's going on with it. So there is a possibility, but again, the $1 million question is, can it be restored? And if in fact it could, and we want to place it somewhere, I don't know where it would be placed at this point, if it would be on something like our plaza, because we're getting the Groton sale.
Right.
So,
Yes.
but I mean, that's kind of a little far off, because we have to, again, see what status it's at. But I think the history itself lends to a good conversation, and people love that.
Very interesting. And I, for one, would like to have both links to the,
I would love to
maybe you
share
just send
them.
out to the board, both the links.
Of course I will.
please.
Yes. I would
Be
love
great.
for you to see
Thank
them.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Now, wait on now.
Jennifer, the one item I don't think I heard you talk about was phase 1 of the budget.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Probably the most important, right?
Right.
So as of Friday, we had to submit, our proposed budget. And what we've submitted, again, we're in this strange time of, I don't want to say, do we ask for things now? Because right now we're still in a weird COVID situation, and I don't necessarily need people right this second. What we're working with now seems to be working. However, as we go into the next year, we just don't know. But what I can tell you is we're going into a new union contract. So that means there will be increases for the union contract, as well as minimum wage increases go up.
Right.
So those are the increases that we will be seeing in our upcoming budget deliberations. It's really based on those raises, contractual.
Could you just step us, if you know what the calendar is for the spring, not the exact dates, but is it still maybe
Sure.
share what you know about the process. that will be
Sure,
used this year.
So are you talking about like when a public hearing and things of that
Exactly,
nature?
and will there be meetings with the RTM subcommittee? Will there, just, I know last year was
Sure.
such an anomaly with, the
Right,
board
it
didn't have a
was.
very active role in the
was.
budget, but
Mhm, mhm.
what you might know about what process is going to be, if you have
We
heard.
have a temporary calendar of based on charter, like when things need to go in. However, with COVID and not meeting, and I don't know how long this is going to be with, considerations of virtual. I mean, can I take my best guess and tell you that we will be in, at council and at RTM instead of virtual? I would assume so, but it's the best guess. We do have a calendar though that I'd be happy to share. It's not,
Yes,
not a
please.
big deal. And then the other thing, the town manager has asked us to, the department heads to be prepared because the town council and some RTM members would like to do tours of the facility. But I haven't inquired further yet because I haven't looked at dates and when that plan is, but really the task is asking the directors of each building, basically what they do, how their operations work. So it's really a department head to council or RTM members. So my point is I'm not sure if that's an open invitation to say, can we have additional like board members come? Or is this strictly just he wants department heads to facilitate those meetings or tours, I should say. But when I get some kind of dates, I'll let you know, just so we're
Mhm.
getting prepared on that level. But I will share that calendar with you.
Did you have specific guidelines in terms of like a cap of what you could ask for, or like, this in terms of, services or negative 5%, but any of that kind of directive?
We have been for the last, I don't know, has it been 6-7 years? It's almost like a task for us to, be prepared for any kind of changes. We come in with the level budget. Our level budget this year has been requested the level plus our contractual / minimum wage increases. That's going to be our level. The 0% that we practice will be exactly what we had last year, minus those contractual minimum wage increases. And then the -5, yes, we've been tasked to look at that as well, just for our own, practice and preparation for any type of question that may be asked, so we can tell them what services, what things that will have to be passed along or, eliminated, considering if there is any questions about services.
Any questions of the board about budget or any items on Jennifer's report? Okay, hearing none, should we move over down to new, thank you, Jennifer.
Welcome.
Move to new business.
Mhm.
And the first item is to elect a slate of a new board for 2022. And I think probably the best process to use is that not one of the 3 people who are on the slate, but someone else on the board make a motion to elect, and then a second, and then we'll take the vote of the board. So Hallie,
I'll make
I
a
see your hand
motion.
up.
Yeah, no, I was going to make the motion.
Okay, great.
I'm ready.
I'll second.
Go.
I didn't get it out yet, Marilyn. Yeah, I make a motion to approve the slate.
I'll second it.
And the slate is Catherine as chair, myself as vice chair, and Barbara continue as secretary.
Good, good.
Hey, thank you. Any comments, discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? A motion carried. Okay, congratulations, Catherine, our new chair. Would you like to continue running the meeting, Catherine?
Oh, no, you can finish. That's fine.
Or do you want to do, your choice, whether you want to continue as chair or would you like to start afresh in February?
I think in the interest of continuity, why don't you finish today?
Okay, okay, as vice chair. Okay. Right, so the second item under new business is upcoming Love Your Library, February. Is that take your child to the library? No.
Yes and no. One of the things last year we started was basically kind of a love your library, love your community kind of theme for February. And I just wanted to highlight that, yes, take your child to library day is always in February, and we are going to be doing something. It's going to be more of like last year in the sense of take a craft and go, but also we are going to be giving out, as you may or may not know, we always celebrate Stretch the mascot, Giraffe, his birthday. That's what we kind of do. That's the theme we go with every year for Take Your Child to Library Day. And we do something a little bit different every year, but we used to have cake and have, families join us. So last year, I believe we gave out cupcakes, take and go. This year we're giving out books as party favors. So every child is going to get a book from the library, and we'll do some fun activity that they can grab and go. Those have been very, very popular. Our grab and go crafts are both children, teen, and adults. So we're going to do a special one for Stretch. Also last year, to help out our local bookstore, Bank Square Books, what we basically did was we came up with a wish list of books that we'd love to have in the library, and we provided that list. We take lists from our librarians, we share it with Bank Square Books with books that they have that we would like off that wish list, and that we announce to the community these books. They can go right online and they can purchase one for the library. So it's basically a win-win 3 ways. It's a win for the library. We get a wonderful material. The community gets another book to read or to check out. And then Bank Square Books, our local bookstore, gets the, they're the ones that we purchase from. So it's a win all 3 ways. And we're going to continue that this year. So, if you'd like to purchase or at least tell people about it, they could just visit, our connections. It'll be in our connections newsletter, amongst other social media and our website, and Bank Square's website as well. We're looking forward to that. Yeah.
The item we added on to new business was the board vacancy.
Mhm.
I think
And,
Matthew had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Have we made any linkage with the new bookstore that's next to the Dunkin' Donuts? Is there any effort to include them in any of these programs?
Not for the Bank Square Books, but we have reached out, at least from what I believe Michael was going to reach out. We were trying to do a collaboration with them on a separate thing. Then apparently the new owner has some history background. She purchases, I don't want to say rare books, but almost on a different
librarian.
kind of level. Yes.
She's a
So
librarian, right.
we were looking to do something, I don't want to say totally different, but a little bit different with working with them. But we've had a great, prior to her purchasing, we worked with a book trader on a lot of items. So we will be reaching out if we haven't already. I believe we have, but yes. So to answer your question, yes, we will be doing something. This is just a Bank Square Books item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good point, Matthew. Thank you. So we'll move to discussion or ideas about filling our board vacancy. Does anyone like to jump in?
Yeah, I have been corresponding with somebody I know who Jen provided me with the application form and some more information, which I sent to him. He's working on a resume now, and he's been sending me some questions about the board. So he's quite interested. I think it's definite that he's going to apply through the town clerk.
That's good.
That's excellent. Thank you. That's great. Okay. Do we know anything about how long the process has sometimes taken years, sometimes it takes weeks. But
And I unfortunately don't have any update on how long that would take, but as you know, it has to go before council for approval.
Mhm.
And depending on if there's 1 or 5 applicants, I don't know, but it does get on the docket, but it gets on the agenda for them to then vote new member in.
I'm going back way too many years, but I maybe assume that once the application is received by the town clerk, then the town clerk will move it to the appropriate entity or body.
Yes. I mean, that's my understanding as well.
Okay, great. Good. Well, thank you, Catherine. Let's
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction.
definitely. Okay. Any other comments about that? We'll move over to old business, which we have 3 items to discuss. The first one is, I think this must be something that you might have, Jennifer, the Circle of Friends.
Yeah, that's just gonna be a
update.
second. I just wanted to let you know that the Scholastic Book Fair that we held in December, actually, the Friends have communicated, it did like twice as bad, double what they did in the summer. And so it was, very successful, and the money that's generated from that, they definitely reserve in some products from Scholastic, so we can purchase some things through them for our summer reading program. So win-win.
Excellent. Excellent. It's wonderful. Okay. And Hallie and Catherine, the student board member application.
Yeah. We had touched on a few things the last time to continue discussion to this time, although some of them sounded a little bit like there was agreement last time, but let's just touch on those. I did get rid of the Fitch High School commentary in the title because we decided there was no reason to target it just to them. I think it was Matthew that brought up that we want to make sure the homeschool people have an opportunity to be part of this. So as we move forward with the application, we're going to need to think about how we send this out more broadly to the community. I mean, the schools, Jennifer probably has contacts there, but reaching the homeschool community, they probably have some kind of website or communication forum themselves. So perhaps somehow we can get a hold of that.
Does that serve the purpose though? Because we're talking about liaising with the school system so that, I mean, does it matter where they're coming from or that they're high school students? Do they need to be representing an entity?
A school.
That was the intention. Whether we still want to keep it to that, it's up to the pleasure of the board, but that was certainly the intention of the.
And that would
having the
eliminate
student representative.
homeschoolers,
Yeah.
right?
Well, theoretically, someone who's being homeschooled could maybe be a liaison to other students who are homeschooled if there is an organization that people belong to or whatever.
Another way to address that, and I'm just thinking out loud here, might be to have the actual student representative be someone from a high school, the way we had originally envisioned, but perhaps there could be a less formal appearance by a particularly interested homeschool person who could then communicate with the homeschool community. So, I mean, that sort of gives us 2 levels of people, but this occurred to me too, because it's sort of too bad to cut out the whole homeschool
Yeah.
cohort.
But
Do you
if
have any
we,
idea how many students are homeschooled at high school level in Groton? Do we have? I guess I wonder, what is the size of those
no
potential?
idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's so many different groups that,
Yeah.
I mean, just here around the area of Groton, I mean, we had quite a number of homeschool different groups, not just one, that would, utilize our meeting room or activity area or, yeah, and they change all the time because it depends on, who's running them. Sometimes it's just, obviously you're just individual, but sometimes they get together to do programs. So, I mean, I could say that, not that this is ideal, but one way, if you wanted to broadcast the homeschool, we do have many families who utilize the library for resources, and we could put up something in our, in the children's room as well as on the community board. At least it's something, when they come in the library. I mean, there's obviously other avenues if there's websites, but just a thought that if that's the way you were going.
I'm
Ally?
sort of afraid that if we target, there's no reason that a homeschooled high school student can't apply. But my fear is that if we target it, there's so many disparate homeschool groups, then, well, we didn't hear about it, or we didn't hear about it, or, I'm not sure who they're representing. And that's just,
Yeah.
that just,
The way I look at it is it's kind of like kids who don't go to Fitch. I mean, you don't want to explicitly say this is only for Fitch students. I mean, I would keep the application general, and if a homeschool student applies, then deal with it at that point. Or if, somebody from one of the magnet schools applies, just keep the application general and market it at Fitch and push Fitch, but
Didn't
at
we
the
say
same
we-
time,
didn't we say we were going to include the magnet schools?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying, you don't want to explicitly exclude people, but you also don't have to like make a big push to try and get like a homeschool student to apply. But it's, if they apply, great. If they don't,
Mhm.
okay.
I think that if we look at the second page of the application, that after personal reference, so the last part, the endorsements. Well, first thing, personal reference, I guess we want to take Fitch High School off of that line.
Good point.
Oh,
Yes.
And
yeah,
then-
yep.
And then secondly, endorsements, where we're asking for teacher endorsements and administrative endorsements, that's not going to fly for homeschool. Again, take Fitch off that line, but I guess that's, if we want to make one application and we want to make it generic enough for any high school student who lives in Groton.
Hmm.
It does say student representative.
Student representative,
Mhm.
I guess the endorsements are
Period,
going to have
that's-
to,
That could be any.
not be teachers or
Yeah.
administrators.
I mean,
And
we
it could
could
be
just
any
say
school.
people familiar with your work.
Yeah. Because it's
Matthew?
generic enough that we're not saying it's Fitch.
I appreciate what Hallie said, and I think perhaps we can finesse this a little bit by starting with the idea of a student representative from an institution. And if and when a homeschool student or family wants to have their child be a representative, we can honestly say that we hadn't figured out a way how to reach out to a broad disparate group, and we'll accept an application if that's what the board's desire is to do, and deal with it then. I don't see us being overrun by 30 applications from homeschoolers.
I don't think we get a lot of
120
application from homeschoolers either, but I think it's not good to, I assume this document is going to be on the library website or on the town website. And, if a homeschool student is interested and opens it up and sees that it's geared toward students in traditional schools, we might never hear from them. I think we should keep it, somewhat generic. instead of having somebody look at it and be disappointed and just, it gets no further.
Mm,
Was it the sense of the board initially that we wanted to forge relationships with the institutions of education in our town? We have about 97 Groton kids in the Marine Magnet School. We have 20 or 30 at El Grasso. If my numbers are right, they're not
mm.
meant to be exact. That's kind of the scale. I guess I'm wondering if we can finesse it by starting out with what we know we can do well without any problems, and making somebody else wants to just be welcoming. But I also hear what Barb is saying, and I respect that too.
I think if we do go with just accepting applications from kids that are in schools, I think the application should state clearly that the purpose, maybe it already does, that the purpose is to be a liaison between the library and the schools, so that if a homeschool student does come across this application, they understand why it seems to exclude homeschooled students.
Doesn't
Just
say
was
that.
looking online, 5% of Connecticut children are homeschooled.
I don't see it
Yeah.
anywhere on the application. And if this is all they're seeing,
Hmm.
student representative of the to the library board, it doesn't say what they have to, who they're talking to. Oh, it does say for the personal reference, it does say Fitch High School.
Yeah.
We're gonna take that out.
Maybe
Yeah.
there should be something at the top of the applications, like a short job description, like we had talked about earlier, or, truncate it down to like 2 lines, that what the purpose of the student representative is.
I think those 2 documents were going to be together, that nice description that you and Maria, I think, wrote up about what this is all about, and then the
Right,
application.
right.
But I think that's an excellent idea to put a little bit of that in here, just to reinforce that point, perhaps.
I have 2 questions.
Sure, Matthew.
If it's your pleasure, Jennifer, or she could delegate somebody to write a note to Susan Austin. I believe to be homeschooled legally in Connecticut, you have to have an approved homeschooling plan. And I think that's run through the district. I'm not swearing to that. I think Susan would be able to give us a ballpark figure of how many high school students are being homeschooled. So that give us some kind of factual basis. The other question.
Matthew, I think the curriculum comes from the state, not the school district. I believe
The
State
curriculum.
Department of Education. And I think there's
To me, the numbers are sort of irrelevant. I mean, even if there's one high school student in Groton who's homeschooled, and that student happens to find this application online and feels excluded, I just think that's unfortunate. So I would say if we put something at the top that says a primary purpose of this student, role of this student representative is to be a liaison, then the student looks at it and understands why homeschool students aren't included. So it's really irrelevant to me whether it's one student or 100. You just, even if it's just one, you don't want that one student looking at this and feeling like they don't care about me. Stupid library.
Do we
I need to go
need,
back to Matthew's comment, though. I'm processing it a bit, and I just don't know if homeschooled students can have a foot in both places. So I think your suggestion to check with the school administration to see if there is hybrid going on with homeschooling.
Aren't they allowed to participate in school sports and
But
clubs?
that's what I'm thinking.
Yes, yep, they are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they might actually have an opportunity to communicate with high school through. I just don't
Well,
know. I think it'd be a
here's
good
an-
idea to, I agree with what you said, to
There's
check
2
with the school
things.
administration.
two things that, come up in my mind's eye is, one, as Barbara mentioned, like, what is the goal? What was the original goal of having this student representative? Was it to find out what the school's doing, or just having a person that is in, whether in school or homeschooled, reporting on kind of what's happening in the world from a young person's perspective?
Yeah.
How it's applicable to the board. That's just one thought. Second thing is if we already have, this application already has, the general title, student rep, and it's already, basically 3 pages. What if you just did where it says like endorsements and it says teacher, administrator? You have one more small section that says homeschool and whoever you want as a provider of a reference. In other words, homeschool, you need to provide 3 references of, that's just a suggestion. So you can add a little piece to that if that way they can fill it out to their entirety. And then the student from the school can, because the teacher is primarily a family member, or it could be somebody online. So they could
Yeah, that's true.
provide a particular reference is what I'm saying, beyond where it says teacher, administrator. They may not have
Or,
that.
Somebody
could
who's
have references.
homeschooled maybe has a relationship like with a music teacher or a pastor or a rabbi who
Mhm.
could give a reference.
And that way you're getting everybody under the sun, and it's listed. At least we can tell who's who. But those are just 2 thoughts that come to mind.
I sort of think we should leave it as it is. And if a homeschooler or somebody from some alternative program is interested, they'll call in and say, well, how do I do this? I'm a homeschooler. And then we could say, well, use your, the administrator, because there are some homeschools that are online.
They are, yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, so there could be
Well,
any number of.
Kelly, my fear is that a student might look at this and say, it's not for me. They don't want homeschooled students, so I'm not gonna, it's on the face of it, it looks like homeschooled students are excluded.
Yeah.
And I just think that would really be a shame for a kid to look at this and feel like the library doesn't care about them. I think it should be generic, or there should be something at the top that says the purpose of this representative is to be a liaison to an established, to a school. And then, so somebody who's homeschooled looks at it and understands why they're not being encouraged to apply.
Wasn't there another page that described what this was? I can't remember, and I don't want to take the time to go through my notes right now. I don't
Yes,
remember.
Barb and Marie wrote up a nice summary of it,
covered.
which I don't have right here.
Overview, job description, and purpose,
Right.
purpose statement of what.
And where is, yeah, and I don't have that on hand right now. I don't want to take the time to go looking for it, but that could serve that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You can identify who qualifies.
Yeah,
So
that could be at the
any
top of the
person-
application or the first page of the application.
And we could say that, it's open to anybody, at the high school level. And, oh, I've lost my train of thought. Never mind. Regardless of where they, that they would have to be providing references or something.
Well, going back to what Jennifer said a little while ago, it's like, what was the purpose? Well, absolutely the purpose for the board to get input
Mhm.
from a high school student, but
Right.
there's also that output. It's taking the, communicating what Groton Public Library can do for them.
Mhm.
So it's really that two-way, and that's where I think the input could come easily from any Groton high school student.
Mhm.
the
Absolutely.
output is, I think, what we're struggling with a bit. How is that communication going to be given about what the Groton Public Library can do for our school children, if the student is not in one of the 3 high schools? So I think that's what we're kind of struggling with, because it really is a two-way.
Can I suggest that maybe Hallie and I, if you're willing, Hallie, could
Yeah.
try to put together an amended version for this round, putting in the statements about liaison with the school and just making it adhere a little more to what Maria and Barb had put out the first time, our original idea. And then perhaps we can send that out by email to everybody and talk about it again next month. See how that feels, give it a little pressure test and see if we want to try to target more homeschoolers with it, or leave that as it is. And I would point out too, that we'll be probably doing this every couple of years as these people graduate. So this isn't the end. We can learn over time. And if we run into a real issue with a homeschooler who just really, really wants to do this, then we change the application for the next time around.
One question in a different dimension. Is there an advantage or disadvantage in contacting at least the 3 schools to let them know that we're working on this as something we would like to do, so that the director of the Marine Magnet School or Superintendent Austin doesn't say, well, what connection do we have? I mean, we're assuming that they will be glad to do it, and I think they will be glad to do it, but it might be nice to ask them as well. What do you all think?
I don't see why that'd be a problem. I've contacted them about their numbers. They were very open to providing me almost immediately information. And just as a side note, I know we had asked the last meeting if the Board of Ed had any application that we could possibly look at for, in reference to our own applications we're putting together. And the executive assistant had emailed me back saying they don't have a formal application. They actually have students submit their interest to the high school principal. And then the principal then lets the Board of Ed know who student reps will be to the Board of Ed. So interesting way of application. So I just, wanted to, in talking about applications, they don't have a formal one. But again, they all got right back to me, any question I've asked so far. So I don't see why that would be a problem.
I just see them as a channel to communicate our interest that the school board, I'm projecting, would be very glad to say at a school board meeting, which is broadcast publicly, that we are in the process of collecting applications so that there'll be a direct link with the library. And I think the other institutions would do so and communicate with their students that this is available.
We could just make it an FYI. This is coming down the pike. Check our website.
Sure.
So kind of recapping of what we're still grappling a bit with the application, and Catherine and Hallie are going to tweak it a bit for next meeting. We also are still grappling with the homeschool
Right.
student, and perhaps I'd like to follow up on Matthew's suggestion that we look perhaps through the school administration, maybe Jennifer could learn, or our staff could learn more about any responsibilities or any connections the high school may have to homeschooled students, so that if they, I guess the question is, could a homeschool student be a conduit of information for any of those 3 high schools? Is there any kind of a time when they're on campus, so to speak, or involved in, someone use the word hybrid, homeschool, but also have a presence in the public schools or state schools? I think we're close. I think we are. And
Mhm.
and I think the benefits are going to be huge, not only to the board, but even more so to the student to have that opportunity to be a representative.
Just one more thing. We had talked quite a bit the last time about this business of holding harmless and indemnifying the town and,
Mhm.
and
Right.
you know, all that verbiage. Jennifer, did you have a chance to get a sense of whether that has to be in there?
It's on the third
Um,
page.
Yeah, sorry.
So
Yeah.
after the meeting, I believe between Marie and Matthew, we had a conversation about what kind of liability and coverage and fiduciary responsibility. So HR did get back to me, and very interesting. It's a very long paragraph of what they do cover. And personally, I think we should leave it in, especially if we're using the town of Groton. Again, we have it on all our volunteer applications, and that includes teen volunteers. I think, messing with that is not a good idea. It's a standard for our town. And if we're requiring it from volunteers, somebody who's actually going to be coming to our meetings and representing, even if they're not a full board member. Again, we require it from teen volunteers. I'd hate to change something like that that's covering the whole town. For the
Fair.
purpose.
You
So-
convinced me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Obviously, if a parent is very interested in, learning more or wondering why, I'd be happy to talk to them about that. So far, and I've been here almost 10 years, and I've helped with almost all these volunteer applications, the teen ones primarily, and including Marie, to even the interns. Like they follow the same application or setup, I should say. And I have not had one question regarding that, the commentary on it.
Mhm.
But I'd be happy to talk to anybody any parent who would be concerned or had any questions. We can certainly talk on that. So,
This is a really small point, but it might seem a little less jarring if those two paragraphs on the last page were transposed, so that the first thing was, I certify that the information provided on this application is complete and true, which seems pretty, harmless. And then go into, I agree to reimburse, hold harmless, and indemnify the town of Groton.
Yeah.
So, so that the first thing that hits you before you sign isn't your legal ramification. It's more like, yeah, I didn't lie on my application, which seems perfectly reasonable to ask.
I think that's a really good suggestion.
it is.
Mhm.
And we did agree to get rid of the GPA.
Yeah.
request.
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that?
Right.
Okay, we'll work on this and send it back out to you all before the next meeting.
Great.
Terrific. Thank
Thank
you.
you for your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. The last item, and we're going to run a little bit over 5, but the commemoration of one of our long-time, excuse me, and faithful volunteers. And I believe a while back, I had asked Jennifer to perhaps talk with some key staff people who knew her and to come up with maybe 1 or 2 recommendations of what, and it's not that the board should, how can I say, it's really advisement to the library that they do something to commemorate this volunteer. It's not really a board action per se, in my opinion. We haven't done that before. It's really the library as an entity commemorating a very dedicated person who's passed.
Absolutely. Yes.
Am I correct in that, Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely. We have had a couple, one of our standard things that we like to do is we like to commemorate with books, of course, because that's one of our products.
Mhm.
But not to belabor it, I mean, we can definitely do that anyway regardless, but one thing specifically, this person was very helpful to both us as well as the senior center. And it would be really nice if we could do something collaboratively, if it's something bigger that they would like to be part of. In fact, this person was integral to our digital signboard that's outside when you pass with the light. She was the driving force for that thing that we received, and that was completely raised funds. It wasn't operational funds. But those are some of the things that she just keyed in on, and she was just a driving force, and she did many things like that. And so I'd like to reach out to maybe Senior Center too, to see if maybe we can finalize something, but at the very least, one of our librarians who was very, very close to her had suggested she had a lot of subject specialties that we would love to purchase some books in her honor and put plaques at the very least.
Nameplates.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Is that something that will be done through operating funds, or is it something that we need fundraising to do, or how would that-
No, what we would do is we would curate, books that in those subjects areas that the librarians purchase, and we would just dedicate those books to her. So, that's not a problem for all that she's done for the town. I mean, she really has
Mhm.
the amount of fundraising she's done. So.
Great.
Can I just ask this, and I might know the answer, but I'd like to. Is there family local that would really be honored to have something formal, a formal presentation of say, representative sample of the books, or a formal reputation presentation of something with the senior center? Are there family members who would really feel the warmth of that? And
I think so. She does have her, I believe it's her son who's local. He's the one who contacted us, and I think so. When I met some of the family when I went to her service, they were just lovely people. And when I had mentioned how much she meant to the library, I mean, they were touched, and they said she just loved both the senior center and the library so much. And we were always a thought on her mind. So I think that would be kind and generous, actually, and I think well received.
I'm not sure if you were saying this in jest before, but I remember her as just being such a person involved in entertainment and hospitality and cordiality toward people.
Yes.
And you said something about like naming the kitchen after her. Is that a thing?
We absolutely could. That's a very, yeah, we certainly could. That's easy, actually. Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Name what after her? I'm sorry.
The kitchen in the meeting room.
Oh,
And just because it's true, as Catherine mentioned, that was something that she always did for the friends, is she would be the hostess and putting out food and just being so personable and talking with people, and just I think that would be a very
That
gesture.
always brings a smile to my face when I think of her, and I think her family would be touched and gently amused by that.
Yeah.
so like a plaque on the door as you go into the meeting room, right in the front of the meeting room. I like that a lot.
Yep. I that would be wonderful. That's a great idea.
Like the Kathy Greenleaf supply closet.
Yes. Or we've named, the Betty Ann Ryder community room, because she was the, driving force with programming. And if she wasn't in her office, she was living in that meeting room. So yeah, that was dedicated to her. Well, I can certainly work on that. That's not a problem. And like I said, some of those books. But I would like to reach out to the senior center just to see if they'd be open to doing, I don't know what,
They can
but
name their kitchen after her too.
yeah, that's true.
Mhm, mhm. I think those are fabulous ideas. I really.
Great.
So maybe not next month, but maybe in, spring, you could report back to,
Will do. Yes,
and if
absolutely.
anything that you need from the board to help in those efforts, don't hesitate.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Is there any other old business?
Oh, I have a question
Sure, Kelly.
about the Circle of Friends. I went online the other day and I saw they were having a swag sale and I thought, ooh, I want to go. And so I got all ready to go and I realized when I went that it was a one-day thing. Is there stuff still available?
Yes.
Okay.
We did a pop-up swag sale,
Oh,
and the
okay.
swag sale is all kinds of things that they have purchased over time.
Right.
Everything from pencils to bags to water bottles. And yes, we do have items for sale. We just happen to bring everything out,
Oh, okay.
to
So it's
stock the
still,
whole table, so
okay.
you can come in. But yes, there's something always available. For
And how
purchase.
do you go about getting it?
So when you come into the library, right to the left, there's a display
Oh,
case.
right,
And
right,
it has
right,
all
right.
the items and, in that display case, and you just decide what you'd like. You go to the front desk and tell them what you like, and they'll pull it for you.
Excellent. I was worried that I missed it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is anything else? Hearing none, I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 5:20 p.m. I'd like to
So
make the motion.
moved.
Barbara and second by Marilyn. Okay. And next month, we'll just see what where we're
I'll
at. and
keep you
what is it?
posted as to if the meeting rooms are open or if we're still virtual, and we'll follow the same thing. If it's virtual, Lisa will send out the meeting links, and yeah.
And if we're fortunate enough to be in person, we'll also practice social distancing as well.
We can, and if there's any, particular issues, I'll send out a reminder. And if there's a hybrid related thing that we need to take care of, like I said, I need but 24 hours notice so I can get everything set up.
Okay, and the meeting's adjourned, but I just want to make sure does town hall need to know that Catherine is now our chair so that it's put on the library website?
I
and so
will
forth?
send that down.
You'll do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Okay, just not.
Sure.
It's all yours, Catherine.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah.
It was a tough campaign.
Or Marie,
I know.
congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both.
Marie,
Okay.
how long have you been doing this?
I don't want to tell you because I really don't know, but I'm going to say probably upwards of, I remember when we hired Jennifer, so probably about, and it was, how long was Betty Ann director?
No, at least 8
And
years.
I think I chaired the board at least 4 or 5 years before she became director.
Right, because you said with that.
So at
Yes.
least 12, 13 years. I mean, it could be lifelong, Catherine. Decades.
Don't make any plans for the immediate future, Catherine.
Funny.
Well, thank you. You've been a
Well,
wonderful
good night to
chair.
all. And take care.
Thank you all, and
Well,
see you next
everybody.
month. Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Good night, guys.